Have you ever hit a moment where success wasn't enough? Where the weight of your past, the scars no one sees, or the doubts you don't dare to voice keep you from breaking through to the life you know you're capable? Maybe you've achieved things others only dream of. Maybe deep down, there's still something holding you back, something you can't quite name, yet it's there, shadowing your every step forward. If that strikes you at a chord, take a breath. You have just found your people. You're not alone. Welcome to That Shit Does Not Define You, Stories of Hope. I'm Athena Captain, joined by my co-host, Jada Haycraft, and this isn't just another podcast. This is a space to strip away labels, shame, and the invisible barriers that have held you back.
With each podcast, we will bring you raw, unfiltered stories of resilience, real people who have defied the odds to rewrite their narratives and give you the strategies, systems, and tools to do the same. This isn't theory, it's lived experience. It's practical, it's powerful, and it's personal. Whether you're ready to claw your way out of rock bottom or shatter the invisible ceiling standing between you and your highest potential, this podcast is your roadmap to rise. Your next breakthrough starts here. Let's get started. It's time to rewrite your narrative.
Hi, what do you do when life feels unbearable? When the weight of your struggle threatens to crush you? You've been there? In those moments, hope can feel like a distant emotion, like a faint light in the darkness, right? But here's the truth. Hope isn't just a feeling, it's a force. It's a bridge between you of where you're at today and where you're meant to be. Today, we're going to explore the transformative power of hope and how it can change everything, even when it feels like all is lost. And I'm going to say this. Many studies and many people have been interviewed and have said the most crucial thing in life is hope. So stay with us today so we can explain to you how hope is so important. So Jada, all right. You know, everybody, we're going to get touchy-feely and we're going to do all of that. But let's start with some science so that we understand what's going on in psychology and just how our brains are working in regards to hope. So,
absolutely. So I have 3 different avenues of hope and how it can change your brain and that sort of thing that I want to share with you today. So
perfect.
Athena, feel free to interrupt me. A lot of this is, I think, really interesting. And so if you want to dialogue about it, let me know.
Okay, that's going to be fun. All right, great.
So the first one is hope changes the brain. And the science behind that is hope is more than an emotion. It's a cognitive process involving goal setting, pathways to achievement, and motivation. There's a key study that I found that Dr. Charles Snyder, a pioneer in hope research, developed the hope theory, which defines hope as the belief in your ability to achieve goals and identify paths to reach them. People with higher levels of hope are more likely to overcome obstacles and succeed. So I think the key insight from that is that hope engages the brain's prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning and problem solving, empowering you to think creatively and act decisively. And the impact there is that hopeful individuals are more resilient, better problem solvers, and more likely to achieve their goals.
I need that. Can we just
right?
I need my brain to start working better and be a better problem solver and achieve more goals. I don't know. How about you guys listening? You probably feel the same way, right?
Absolutely.
That's a good one. I like that.
Perfect. And I have 2 more. So the second one is how hope increases resilience. And the science says that hope serves as a protective factor against mental health challenges like depression and anxiety. And a key study was a study in psychological science from 2019 found that individuals with high hope are more likely to bounce back from adversity as hope fosters optimism and problem-focused coping strategies.
Wow.
The key insight on that was that hope acts as that psychological buffer, which helps people see setbacks as temporary and surmountable. Basically just saying that, not all is lost.
Good thing, though. I mean, I think this is critical because everyone in life has those moments, right? We all absolutely have those setbacks.
Absolutely. Everyone. And even on a weekly basis, I'm sure. So the last one I wanted to share was how hope can be cultivated. It's a skill. It's not just a feeling. And the science says that while some people naturally feel more hopeful, research shows that hope can be cultivated through intentional practice. And a key study in 2013 was in Motivation and Emotion, found that setting achievable goals, visualizing success, and maintaining a focus on positive outcomes significantly increases hope levels in participants. So the,
Okay.
the key insight there was that hope isn't just innate, it's something you can actively build, much like a muscle. And the impact there is even people facing overwhelming circumstances can foster hope by shifting their focus and practicing goal setting, which, Athena, that's something you teach. So that was just encouraging for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that hope doesn't have to be something that either Jada we have or don't have. I love that there is scientific proof that we can create hope. We can do activities to stimulate our brain to have hope, and then the power that encourages me because I understand life is complicated and messy and the life is not always fair, right? And it's not a fairy tale for sure.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right? I'm not saying life is not great. It's just not a fairy tale. It's
Yeah.
not like that. But hey, so today, Jada, I want to share a story that really inspired me. I think the listeners here may not know this, but I'm a nerd, and you'll learn this about me. But I love history, and I really enjoy learning about other people's stories of resiliency and how they've overcome. And just a little sidebar to before I get started in this story. In my 20s, when I was really unpacking a lot of the effects of the extreme child abuse and circumstances I lived in, one of the things that gave me hope, Jada, was I would read stories of other people who had gone through things worse than I had gone through and how they overcame, how they were resilient. And that almost seems morbid, because you're reading about, honestly, I read a lot about genocide in different places and etc. But it gave perspective. And I thought, if these people can live through these circumstances and get through, surely I can too with some good help with therapy and faith. So I wanted to kind of pull. So today's story comes from that. And so I want to share a historical story. And this story is Viktor Frankl's story of hope. And you guys, it's from Auschwitz.
Mm.
So if you don't know what that is, I hope everyone listening really knows what that is. But we know that is where the German army put Jews. And we also know from history that it was considered the worst prison that you could go to. So he endured unimaginable suffering there. I don't think we even want to think about what he endured, right? One of the most notorious Nazi concentration camps. He lost his wife, he lost his parents, his countless loved ones during the Holocaust. But while in prison, he noticed a profound truth. Those who clung to hope were more likely to survive, even in those conditions. Frankel himself held onto hope by imagining life outside of war. Each day he pictured himself standing in a lecture hall, sharing his experience and helping others understand the power and the meaning of suffering. That's sad, but I'm glad it gave him hope. This mental image became his lifeline, the vision of a future that gave him his present struggle purpose. There's a lot to unpack here when I'm done telling this story. He also observed that other prisoners who maintained hope, whether through their belief in God, through their believing they were going to reunite with loved ones, or dreams of rebuilding their life, also fared better physically and emotionally. Conversely, the prisoners who lost hope, it wasn't long before they went in despair and death. So here's a quote that Frankel quoted, and everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstance, to choose one's own way. Jada, that is a powerful quote. Now, understand that quote is coming from a man who literally went through something so atrocious that probably 95% of the people in what we'll call functioning world, in first world countries, will never experience. And yet, this is what he's saying. You can't take away my freedom to have a good attitude, to have hope. I mean,
Man.
wow. I hope that, listeners, I know that you guys, you're probably in your car or on the treadmill, but I want you to think, and I want to unpack this with you for a second. So sometimes it's hard for us to look at a circumstance or a story like this and say, well, that's good for him. It doesn't relate to me. But it does. Because if we pull apart some of these things, and we'll go into more depth, but I want to pull out a couple of things from his story that really hit me. And one is he believed that what was happening to him, he was going to turn it around to help other people. Now, you guys, if you've been listening to our podcast, you know that when I was 10 years old, the only reason I didn't take my life is that same belief. So if you haven't listened to that, that's on episode 1. So when I read this I was like, I have lived that. I have lived that. It's a lot of the reason I'm here. That is called hope. That's what I had at 10, was hope of a better future. And that hope encompassed helping other people. So think about, that's something for us to think about, and turning our circumstances into something that gives other people resiliency and hope. I just really wanted to point that out. The other thing is having a vision for your future life that's not all about your circumstances that you're in. Man, right? I mean, just being really transparent. This podcast is about me being honest, and we're currently walking in a really difficult season with my daughter, Savannah. And it's very complicated. We got news even yesterday of it's gotten even more complicated. I could get wrapped up in that and have no hope and no belief for a better future, but that is not what I'm choosing to do. We're going to do this season, and we're going to look forward to blessings and great life outside of this season. So I want you guys, wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, I hope you're listening, because there is hope. And so I want to talk a little bit about some truths that we uncovered here. Because you guys know, I know you're maybe new to this podcast. What we want to do is give you some science, give you a story so we can relate, but then pull out some truths. And then from that, we want to give you some practical things so you can do something with this. Jada and I, our heart is that you come away with this feeling like you're not alone, and that you have some additional resources to help you get through whatever you're going through. Jada, speak to that, because I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about there's a lot of life circumstances that I can think about, but yeah, I think about just the ability to pull yourself out. And obviously, Athena, I know you know this, but my parents were divorced, and so I think that a lot came with that through just my childhood. And so thinking about the future definitely helped me remain hopeful in times that were just extremely difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to have hope.
Yeah.
And I like the science. It says it doesn't, we can manufacture hope until we feel the hope. I love that. So here's some truths that I want to share with you. Even when feelings are unbearable, hope can still anchor you, just like Frankel, and just like my 10-year-old self. It reminds you that your story isn't over, that something better is possible. I really hope you guys are hearing this. With suicide rates at an all-time high, whatever circumstance you find yourself in, I promise you there could be a better future. I promise you there's a better future. We've got to find the way to re-find our hope. Here's another truth. Hope doesn't wait for circumstances to change. Gosh, I hope you guys are listening to that. It changes first. It's a choice you make, even in the middle of the pain. Gosh, that's powerful. You know why that's powerful? Because you get to make the choice. And that goes back to, right? You can take everything away from a man, but you can't take his choice for his attitude. So love that truth. The other one, your pain can have meaning, right? Hope turns your struggle into stepping stones for something greater. Wow, if right? I mean, if we could just look at this and say, okay, this is just helping me develop. This is helping me grow. And from this, I will help others and I will even have a richer, deeper life. I hope you guys, so those are truths. Those are facts that we can live on. One of the things of just wrapping up Viktor Frankl's story, survived the horrors of Auschwitz by holding on to hope, you guys. A vision of the future filled him with meaning. He clung to hope for 10 years. Do you hear me? 10 years, believing his pain one day would help other people. Science proves that these stories teach us hope isn't just wishful thinking. It's a lifeline, a choice, a way to find meaning in the hardship. And if you're struggling today, remember hope has the power to change everything, even if it feels impossible. I have to say, before we do the rubber meets the road, y'all know I love to post a good quote. And I love those. I'll continue to do those. But one thing that I want to say is sometimes when you're really in hardship, those quotes can tick you off, Jada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're like,
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
it's cliche.
Yeah.
It's kind of flippant, right? There's some
Definitely.
truth to it. But when you really are struggling, you need more than a quote. Okay?
Yeah.
I have a very good friend of mine. Her husband passed away in his 40s, and they had 2 little kids. And she and I were having lunch about 6 months after he passed, and she said, I know you love to post quotes. If I see one more post about how I'm supposed to be happy, even if I'm mourning, she's like, I'm going to scream, right? We get it.
Yeah.
We get it. And I understood. She's right. Because the depth of despair and how much her life changed was so immense, a quote wasn't going to do it. So she and I talked about strategies. How does she get through this? She still, she had to run a business still, and she had 2 little kids she had to do, and she still had a life to live. He'd want her to have a good life. So this is where we go into the rubber meets the road. This is where she, people like her, how do you get hope, right? So one thing this is where the rubber meets the road, you guys. So if you're listening and you're on the treadmill or something, remember, please like this, save it so you can come back. And I hope you have a journal so you can writing some of these things down. But the number one thing, you must create a vision for your future. Now, Viktor did it for 10 years in Auschwitz, you guys. He just envisioned what his future was going to look like. And by the way, my 10-year-old self did too. It took me a minute. It took me 40 years, from 10, I'm in my 50s now. I'm finally doing this podcast is one of those things. It is the manifestation of that promise between God and I when I was 10 years old, is using this to help you. So it may take a minute, but it's having that vision that the future will be better. So he survived by holding on to a vision, right, beyond the atrocity of Auschwitz. So let me ask you, do these things. Again, I hope you're writing these down. Spend 5 minutes imagining a future beyond your current pain. Ask yourself, what does my ideal life look like? Or what does the life that I want beyond this look like? Even if it's not ideal. Okay, what do I want it to look like after? My friend, the life she was going to create wasn't going to be ideal because it was without her husband. But she knew what was the best life she could create beyond this atrocious pain. So look at your life. Whatever I'm going through, what could it be? What could it look like? That's really critical. Again, just being very emotional. I'm working through those emotions myself with my daughter. How do you perhaps lose a child, and then what does a life look like after that? How do you do that? And so that's a lot that I'm thinking through. But number two, what do I want to become? Or who do I want to become? Who's the person you want to be? And I really want to, again, I feel like I'm talking too much on this episode. Jada, just check me if I am.
I feel like, I mean, it is all very helpful and relevant information. So
Okay,
I
well,
wouldn't
she'll
even say
check
you're
me,
rambling.
listeners. But here's the thing, who do you want to become? I have seen people, and I'm sure you guys have too, who allow circumstances to happen and they make them bitter, angry, a victim. They degrade their character. Those people typically go through life alone, isolated, depressed, angry. Uh, do you want that? Do you want that? Or no matter what you're going through, do you want to use it to allow you to be a person of resilience, a person of hope, a person of joy, a person who believes in a better tomorrow? Though that attitude creates community. That attitude creates an abundance mentality. That attitude creates life. So what are you going to do with it? Right? Three, what will my current struggles teach me that I can use in the future? I use this a lot in coaching. Jada knows this, but I'm constantly like, let's write down what did we do wrong and what can we learn from it, right? In business, they call it a failing forward. But in life, we should do the same thing. What did I learn from it? And how can it help me? So write down and create a vision board if you like vision boards, and put the life you want. Okay. If you're a visual person or you're artistic, make a visual board, because science tells you the more you see it, the more likely you'll achieve it. So something to think about for my creative people listening. All right. Number two, anchor yourself in your why. All right. So there's lots of really good books about the power of why. And so that's something to think about if you want to go deeper, but just why it works. Believing that your pain has purpose gives it meaning, which helps you endure it. Guys, you hearing that? Your story of believing your trauma could one day help others is that example. Okay. So think about that, where you have meaning to it. So here I want you to reflect on these questions. So this is another to do. Again, rubber meets the road. Ask yourself these questions. What do I want my pain to teach me right now? What do I want? What do I want it to teach me? Number two, how can I use my experiences to help other people? Right? It gives it meaning, so then it's easier, and then you have some hope. Again, we're going back to that hope. And then write your why in a single sentence. I'll give you an example of that. I'm enduring this to become stronger, wiser, and to help other people. Right? So really that's taking it back and saying, I'm going to give purpose to this. And then continue to reflect back to your why. The only thing I will add to this is then be on the lookout to where you can help people. Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
That's really important. I currently, right now, I have a mommy who her child with special needs is about to have a huge back surgery, like our daughter did years ago. And she and I, the last 3 days, have been on texting nonstop about the circumstances and all of that. And I'm able to be very honest with her and give her support. That's that example. I wouldn't want to go through that again. I'm just going to tell you, it was a very traumatic experience, but this mom is about to go through it. And so I'm able to use that to help them go through it. That's a great example, right? But we've got to be on the lookout. We've got to be on the lookout for those opportunities, like I am with my friend.
Absolutely. Can I share an example too, Athena?
Please, yes.
So something that came to mind was in college, I worked at a summer camp that was in Northwest Arkansas, and it was primarily for kids of like really, really low income households, often a lot of foster homes, divorced homes, lots of you could probably imagine the kids that ended up in my cabin. And so anyways, that was a time in my life where I was in the thick of going through counseling and processing like my own childhood trauma, and I think wrestling a lot with the why behind it. And that was a really good outlet for me to pour into like younger kids that were going through very similar situations. whether it was divorce or other things that I endured. But it was just really, I think it was really life giving for me in that season of while I was processing through the why of being able to also pour into other kids that were in a very similar life stage.
Yeah. Wow. Thank goodness you had that opportunity. Thank goodness that you, while you were going through it, that
Yeah.
you instantly were able to then get the power of hope and
Mhm.
see the why, see
Yeah.
the I mean, the good of the pain, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're
For
talking
sure.
about. Finding
For
the
sure.
good in the trauma.
Hmm.
Um, and by the way, that's probably not very popular, but we've got to find the good in the trauma,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
We're talking so much about trauma, trauma, trauma. Okay, we need to address trauma, but let's find the
Mhm.
good in the trauma. We've
Yeah.
got to pull it out.
Yeah. I think without the good, I mean, you can just get very cynical towards it. And
Right? And
yeah.
then then it controls you. Then the trauma
Mhm.
controls you, and you don't control the trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing that. The trauma's not in control. I'm just gonna tell you. I lived through it. I don't want it to be in control. I'll fight
Yeah.
it. All right, you
Yeah.
guys. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you sharing your heart because
Of
I
course.
know that I know what you went through and very difficult, very difficult. Number 3, reframe your setbacks as growth opportunities. Now, this is critical. I teach this in business, but this is life too. By the way, business and life are very similar.
You are the CEO of your own life.
Yeah, be the CEO. I love that, Jada. That's a mic drop. Be the CEO of your own life. Yes, let's do that. All right, so why this works. Setbacks can crush hope, okay? If you see them as failures. But reframing them as just opportunities takes that as just a learned opportunity and remember your why. So we grow from it and it creates resilience. So I want you to think about that as you're listening today. Are you, every time you have a setback, are you just sitting back and saying, oh, I failed again? Or you're like, okay, what can I learn from this, etc. Now, I'm not saying you won't have emotion. I'm not saying be emotionless. What I'm saying is feel the emotion, but then force ourselves to get rational and learn from it. All right. So how do we do that? So here's what I want to ask you to ask yourself: what can this teach me about myself? Okay, so these are some additional questions. What can this teach me about myself? Um, that's a powerful question. I just have to share another little funny. So I've been pretty honest. My daughter is going through some really tough times, and earlier in the summer, I got on my face at church, and I was like, "This is," Anyway, I got real serious and in prayer, and what I really felt was there was some character developing in me. And I really, Jada, I thought I have enough character. I have been through enough. I mean, come on. But
Oh,
I will say this. As I reflected, and it's been now, and that was in June, and it's quite a long time ago, months ago now. I did need some character development. I did, and so I think if you look at the circumstances and you say, can this teach? Then you're constantly growing, even when you don't want to. So that's good. Number 2, how can this experience make me stronger? Right? So how can this experience make me stronger? And number 3, what's one small step I can take to move forward here? One small step. Not huge, right? Small steps. So here's another practical tip for those of you who like to go a little more creative or go a little bit deeper. Create a growth list where you record lessons learned from setbacks. And so you can look back and see how far you've come. Now, in my coaching world, I'm all about that because you're always developing, you're always growing. And it's great to look back. And it's also, by the way, great to look back on your successes because some of your successes, you're like, what? I was happy I did that, and then you realize just how much you've developed. So, all right. So, hope isn't just an idea, it's a practice, it's a habit, it's a choice. That's my favorite word, it's a choice. So start today by creating a vision for your future, anchoring yourself in your why, and taking small steps. It's really critical that you understand your life is valuable. You're important. Your future's important. You have a purpose and plan. I don't care where your economic situation is, educational situation is. I don't care what your background is. You have value and you have something to add to other people. And so I want you to have the hope, and I want you to do these exercises so that you can look back and see all the things you got to learn, all the good stuff that came from the trauma. But Jada, where do we go from here?
Well, if you enjoyed this podcast, we would love for you to like and subscribe so you can join us next week. You can find us just about anywhere. So if you want to find us on another streaming platform or social media, just search Athena Captain on Google and you're bound to find us.
Yes, of course. It's fun. I want to leave you guys though with one little statement here. This isn't your practice life. I love to tell people this. This is not your practice life. Don't wait it for it to be perfect. Start messy, start scared, just start, because nothing changes until you do. Take one step today, one small step, right, towards the life you want, and then dare to share with us. We'll be here. We're going to be standing with you. We believe in you every step of the way. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. You don't have to do this alone. Thank you.